Welcome to those of you who are visitors to the MARETweb Project. And in this short video, I want to describe to you some of the things that have transpired over the history of MARET Systems International. We started out just doing assessments and did very little other stuff when it came to electronic communications regarding counseling practices. The first tool was created during my bachelor's work at Governor State University, and I created a tool for a research project that I was working on. That tool was designed to measure anxiety and depression. And what I wanted to do was take a clinical tool that already existed and was largely used by psychologists at 45 items for depression, 45 items for anxiety. What I wanted to do was condense that down to something that would be really fast and that could be usable by a much broader group of people other than just psychologists. So I was very successful. I created a tool that was about 0.91 as far as a correlation between the anxiety and depression tools that I used, the standardized tools, versus the one that I created. So there was an extremely high correlation between what I had created and what was already in existence. And I won't go into the details of how I was able to do that because that's really boring stuff. So we'll skip over that. But basically, I used a Likert scale rather than a yes, no, on or off type scale, and allowed people to use degrees of those particular psychological emotions rather than just yes or no. But I created that tool. I added 7 of the highest ranking factors for suicide or self-destructive behaviors to it. So I created a 37 item tool that generally would take less than 10 minutes for a person to complete. And I named that Quick Test. So that's where Quick Test came from. It was our first tool. At first it was scored on paper, and took it around to a number of counselors, and they really liked it, thought it was helpful. And their biggest negative statement was that it took 45 minutes to score it, and then you had to look up on charts to see what that meant, and it was just a very elaborate process. This is back in 1988 when we didn't have the computing power that we have now. But I had played around with computer programming on an old TRS-80 Radio Shack computer using DOS. And so I thought, you know, what if this stuff could be computerized? And a person could just enter the responses of an individual into a program, and the program would then spit out results, what the scores meant. So I recontacted some of the people that I had given the paper and pencil test to, and a lot of them had DOS-based computers. I wrote a simple program. Really wasn't that difficult, wasn't that elaborate, didn't look real good. It was functional. And I took that and had to go to their sites and install it on their computer off of a floppy disk, one of the real floppy disks, the 5 1/4 inch floppy disk that actually flopped. So I installed it on their computers, and they just thought that was the greatest thing in the world, that they could give this paper test re-enter numbers into the computer, and the computer tell them what they were looking at. So I started passing this around free to a number of people, and really started to take off. And after a while, I decided, I could probably market this thing. And I did begin to market that tool, and then shortly after that added, by request of my users, marriage and pre-marriage. So they've been in existence since 1990, 1991. Most of our tools have been around for a very long time. The anger diagnostics is our newest tool, and that took about 1.5 years of research and collecting of information and whatnot to actually author that tool. But MARET has been around since 1988. It has evolved from 3 5.25-inch DOS-based floppy drives installed with a batch file. I couldn't write one of those now if I had to. I have no clue how to do that stuff anymore. We then went to Windows. That's when we really started to add a lot of tools back in the old days when Windows 95 was a really stable tool. Windows XP after that. But then we had all of our tools. In fact, some tools we don't have anymore. And this was a growing, very rapidly growing organization of people, from pastors to psychologists, licensed professionals, and now a growing number of people in the addiction community using our tools very regularly and very faithfully. MARET functions in Africa, in Europe, in Australia, Canada, and I'm sure a couple other places that I'm not sure of. But it's on the mission field. And in fact, some places in the mission field, it has to be given paper and pencil, and then you have to go back and re-enter it, simply because of the remoteness of locations. So we have been around for a long time. We have been doing this. We have been continuing to add to the things that people need counseling, because you really can't get one-stop shopping for stuff. You can get recording stuff. You can get some diagnostic stuff out there, some scheduling stuff, some billing stuff. But they're all individual programs. So what we're trying to do is incorporate absolutely everything the counselor needs in one tool. We've got a lot of growing to do in the future, and we'll continue to grow. We will add other tools as time permits and as demand mandates that we create those. So this is a little bit of a history of where MARET's been and where MARET is going. We have migrated everything to the internet because, quite frankly, to be very honest, I was tired of attempting to integrate tools into the Microsoft system, and I was tired of excluding people who were using Macs and other systems. And I saw the growing need to be able to allow this stuff to be used on smartphones, tablets, wherever you want to go. Your data is there. That's the wave of the future, and we've already grabbed a hold of that. So this is a little bit about MARET's history.